That's why love is love.
That's why love is blind, because I stabbed it in the eye.
Yes. Thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome. You're welcome,
All right.
America.
Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies on streaming services, because that's the world we live in now, I guess.
Well, everybody's got a podcast, so why don't we?
True. I mean, we're a couple of white guys, so it's at this point it's required by internet law that we have a podcast.
Exactly.
And with me, as always, is the Katharine Hepburn to my Spencer Tracy, the Lauren Bacall to my Humphrey Bogart.
Well, see, now I can't even use "Here's Looking at You, Kid" because you made me. That wasn't even Lauren Bacall.
That was Ingrid Bergman.
That was Ingrid Bergman.
Anyway, this is Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn.
Hello and welcome. What did we watch this week?
We watched Us and Them.
And now us are going to talk about them.
Them movie.
Them movie stars.
Mm-hmm.
What's your snowball pitch this week?
This film is all about, it plays a lot with time and space, but it takes place about sort of this, a look at 10 years of this relationship between two people based around Chinese New Year. Which
I learned is called the Chunyun time of year, the Chunyun period, which is a spring festival travel season in China. And I did a little research on that because I saw in the description, it doesn't actually say that in the movie, but when I read the description, it said the Chunyun period, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Probably wrong, but
apologies.
Yes, apologies. And I was like, well, does that like pertain to the movie itself? And it kind of does a little bit.
Yes.
Because it is the Spring Festival travel season in China, and it starts 15 days before the Lunar New Year's Day and lasts for about 40 days. And what it is in China, there's a tradition for the Chinese to reunite with family for a reunion dinner every Chinese New Year. So everybody is traveling at this time, and it just gets congested. But there's also the Spring Festival holiday falls around the same time as winter break for university students. And the way China is now, there's a lot more opportunities to go elsewhere for universities, so all the university students are going back home at that time.
So it's a little bit like Thanksgiving or Christmas break here in the U.S.
Yeah, and then also that period is considered a week-long holiday in the People's Republic of China, so there's also a lot of people just traveling for pleasure at that time too. So the train system especially gets really congested and backed up, and travel is just really difficult at that time. Which leads us into the opening. We have a boy and a girl getting on a train, going back to their small village. Where was that at?
I don't know. I'm bad at this. I was kind of, sometimes you're watching a movie, then I was doing the dishes, trying to do stuff around the house at the same time, while also taking notes. Because sometimes you got to do something, or otherwise you might fall asleep.
Well, I don't remember what the small town they were from, but they discovered that they're from the same town. They grew up in the same place, and they both moved to Beijing. And he wants to be like a game designer, and it's really unclear what she wants to be.
I'm not sure she necessarily knows, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I don't think she knows what she wants through the whole movie, which becomes a problem later in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets on the train, and she's missing a ticket, and so the boy raises up a ticket. Oh, I got her ticket right here. And so he saves her from getting booted off the train.
I was really hoping for a Last Crusade situation where she was going to punch the ticket, go dress up as a ticket holder, then punch the other guy out.
We didn't get that. This is not an action movie.
This is definitely not an action movie, and that's okay. This movie is a romance and a feelings drama-y movie with a capital R and a capital D.
Yes. And so you mentioned that it takes place going back and forth between time, and we've got it starts out at the 2007 Chinese New Year, so I think it's 2007 going into 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the little train scene, they meet, and she meets, and then she's sitting with him and his friends on the train. And then we cut to the 2018, just before the Chinese New Year. And the future stuff is all done in black and white, which I thought was just some weird choice they were making, but it actually is pertinent.
It's a nice visual distinguisher.
It is, and it's also pertinent to a plot line in the story. So, I mean...
It is nice, too, that it does have a little bit of thematic significance as well.
And there was a lot of that in this movie, actually. He's boarding a plane, and she happens to be on the plane. So they just happen to see each other, and you realize that they're not together at that point.
Come on, you've been to those kind of awkward situations where you see an ex when you're on a plane or when you happen to be traveling somewhere and you just make eye contact inadvertently and then just kind of never look at them again or do everything you can to avoid them.
That happens all the time since I've only flown like 3 times. You know, every single time. I see an X on the plane.
Yeah. They're sitting right next to you, then you realize it's actually your wife.
Oh, God. You're not an X yet.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. It's just like, you are now.
Does your wife listen to this?
No.
Okay, good. Otherwise you have to cut a few parts out.
Oh. Basically, we only see them boarding the plane, and then we cut back to the train again.
Yep, so this definitely kind of... The whole movie is filled with sort of this intercutting of going kind of back and forth, back and forth.
And this is where the congested travel comes in, because when they go back to the train gets stuck due to the weather, and then that just backs up everything. So it's going to be a long time before another train gets going again. So then they decide to walk back to their village.
And then it becomes a Snowpiercer situation.
And
they go to the front of the train with Chris Evans and Octavia Spencer and find out that it's all run by evil Ed Harris. Because of course it's evil Ed Harris. It's always evil Ed Harris. Or these days it's evil Ben Mendelsohn.
It's always evil Ben Mendelsohn.
Yes.
Is he ever a good guy? Maybe sometimes.
I think I've seen him in a good guy in one movie. And that happened to be directed by the same people that made Captain Marvel. So hey.
Yeah.
It's called Mississippi Grind. Look it up. It's really good.
Oh, actually, that is a good movie. I think it's on Amazon
and
Prime.
Ryan Reynolds. So sort of like traveling down through the Midwest to get to like Louisiana and hitting all the casinos.
And he's got like a gambling problem and all this stuff. And yeah, it's just a nice little, kind of turns into a little buddy travel. Yeah, it's a fun little road movie. It's Machu Picchu time. So that's our first recommendation for this episode. Hopefully we won't get too off track, but I don't know. The train is stopped. Off track? Oh. So they walk home in this cute situation, and then he's like, here, hold on to this. He takes off his scarf, so then they kind of almost like holding hands as they're both holding parts of this scarf, because maybe if there's like a whiteout situation, they want to stay together, even though it looks okay. I liked also his little comment, you're not like other girls. You curse, play cards, and you drink well. So you can tell that, like... Quote, not like other girls, unquote. I know. It's on the bingo card. The Rob Kong bingo card. She's just another one of the guys. Just one of the guys. There's another recommendation for an 80s movie. Wasn't there a sitcom that's called, like, Just One of the Boys or something? Where, like, a woman lived with 3 men and she was, like, played cards with them or something? I'm sure there probably is. There's been a sitcom about everything. That's true. No, then you're getting... That sounds like New Girl after a while. Yeah. Which is a good show. Which is basically the same premise, right? Yes. So they get to know each other well, and then you cut to... She ends up with a PhD. They're out to dinner, and she brings a boyfriend who's like he's got a PhD in law. And then that guy eventually breaks up with her. You think that these two are going to get together, and he breaks up with her. And then she moves in with him. So I guess she needs a place to stay. Yeah. And he's in this tiny little cubicle of a tiny city apartment. So. Yeah. The really cramped little apartment. And I assume that her ex-boyfriend went on to become a judge. And then people would always dread when he comes around. No. Oh, come on. It's another good movie and another bad movie in the same recommendation. That is. That's 2 different movies there. Oh, entirely. But they both work at little counters in some crowded mall somewhere, electronic counters. Kind of like one of those, a typical dead-end job. You work here, this person works there. And he eventually quits his job and starts selling, selling porn and video games in the subway hallways or whatever, down in the tunnels. And, yeah, then they meet that other guy. Yeah, and she comes in with a wig, and she's like, "Oh, I got a new boyfriend now," and and it's some guy that like has been buying stuff from her electronics shop. So she like is going after all these guys that have houses and like nice jobs and everything. And then they get to New Year's again, and he's up on a jumbotron that her new boyfriend is there with his wife and kid.
Nice.
It's like, oh well, okay. I guess I'll spend New Year's with the friend, and then they get it on.
Yep.
And then she runs away in the next morning. It's very weird.
I'm not sure if she falls quite into Manic Pixie Dream Girl, because if it was Manic Pixie Dream Girl, she would only exist to like make him feel better about himself. But she definitely has more character, so I don't think she and equal screen time. She doesn't fall into the Manic Pixie Dream Girl quite as much.
Yeah, but I don't know what category she falls under.
Fully realized character.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Although I don't think she fully realizes what her character is, and that's what her fully realized character is that she doesn't know what she wants. Sometimes
you just got to figure yourselves out, and that's okay.
Well, yeah, but that plays into something later.
That's true.
When they get it on New Year's Eve, they actually have a pan-up shot and show the apartment complex they're living in, and it looks like cubicles. There's like room for a bed and a desk, and like actually no standing room after that.
Yeah, just kind of like this almost Tetris block shape sort of thing.
Yeah. He wakes up the next day and he comes home from somewhere and she's gone, and then we go into a montage of him like trying to call her and just ring. Next, it keeps going throughout the day, and then he starts yelling at her when she finally picks up the phone and she goes, "Well, can we still be friends?" Oh,
yeah.
That's harsh.
It is kind of playful the same time too.
Yeah, it's all like the fact that she doesn't know what she wants. Like, I think it's just hard for her to figure out like what's going on, and like he doesn't know what she wants either, because how is he supposed to figure that out too? So I think it's kind of frustrating for them, but they both do have an attraction to each other. But then they, that whole conversation, they cut back to the 10 years later, and they're laughing about it. And
because now after this, because poor traveling, their plane gets grounded or something, so now I have to spend the night in a hotel room, and they're staying in the same one, separate beds, that sort of thing, trying to just laugh about it.
Yeah, and just talking about like what happened back then, what went wrong.
It's like, what were we fighting about? I don't know.
Yeah,
hanging out, drinking champagne, catching up with an old friend.
Yeah. So then we go back to the 10 years before, and she's visiting a jail, and she can't get in. So like we assume he's in jail for selling porn in the subway. Mm-hmm. So stop peddling porn in the subway.
It's a good business anyway. And then they one of the continuous scenes we've seen is like they always go to see his dad for their Thanksgiving dinner or their Lunar New Year dinner. Yeah,
and that was a relationship that I actually really dug too, was the relationship between his father and him, and how he kind of took things for granted. And it's one of those where you're learning along the way. You think that, oh, I need to get out of this podunk little town and I need to go make a name for myself, and so like he kind of is drifting away from his father, and then he feels like he has to prove himself to somebody. Like, I feel like that's his character, is he's always trying to prove himself to his friends and to his father and to her and to, and so then he is constantly lying to his dad. Mm-hmm. And when he's in prison, she actually goes to the next New Year with the family without him and says that he's busy at a gaming job.
Yeah, he's very busy. This guy,
He's developing a new game. It's going to be the next big thing.
Something called Fort Fight? I don't know.
and then we discover he goes into Grandma's Boy.
I'm sorry, that one's lost on me, dude.
Sorry, I just rewatched that one. Please watch that one. It's great.
I'm not sure.
It's got a 16% on Rotten Tomato, but I stand by its greatness.
Okay. You can just go ahead and watch Pieces again.
So then she starts telling, he gets out of jail, and then she tells him all about another new boyfriend that she has, and what a catch she is.
It's very teasing.
Oh no, this was where she told him after he got out of jail that he was her new boyfriend and that she was a catch. So she's basically like, you're my new boyfriend because I'm awesome.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how you propose to your wife, right?
Yes. I met her and I said, I'm going to marry you because I'm awesome and you want to.
She's like, okay. They've been happily married ever since.
Yeah. And this is where they start talking about, like, they actually start talking about the future and then about the game he's developing. And he's writing this game about a boy who lost his girl and he's trying to find her through the whole game. And she comes up with the scenario, what if he never finds her? And he has the line, if the boy could never find the girl, then his world would be colorless. And then, hey, guess what? The 10 years later stuff is all black and white. And so that means he never got the girl, so he's not with her.
Also, we get these weird interludes with Guy Pearce in a hotel room and looking at all of his tattoos.
What happened?
Remember?
But we do see,
Remember Sammy Jenkins?
He killed him all along. Sorry, spoilers. I just spoil everything.
It's only a 19-year-old movie.
I know, right? Then we cut back to the black and white after that happens, and they're in the hotel room, and he gets a call from his kid, which was kind of, his kid's like, show me every angle of the hotel room. Is like, are you there with another woman, Dad?
It's like, no, not at all, little Timmy.
Show me the bathroom too.
That's pretty sweet. He's like probably like a 3 or 4-year-old.
Yeah, it was pretty cute. And the dad is even like, you're weird.
He's like, really? Why do you want to see behind my? He's like to see like the ceiling, the floor, everything.
Show me the ceiling.
And during this whole
floor.
thing, he's kind of moving his phone around on this FaceTime, then the woman has to keep kind of like strategically moving around the room to make sure like she doesn't appear on camera. It was a fun little scene. And
then she runs out of the hotel room, and then they go back to the 10 years before. And I'm calling it 10 years before, even though that's progressing much faster.
Yeah, it's kind of slowly. Because it's going year by year, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2011.
Yeah, because usually when you see them, there's also a scene going back home to the family and the dad, and that's always the New Year's reunion dinner. So, which also you see a progression of not only them sometimes not making it, but also there's just less and less people showing up to it until finally the end you get, and he's just there by himself one year. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of sad.
It's very sad. And then one part I liked is, the kid is trying to teach his dad how to use the new TV. And then the dad's like, I don't get it. What's with this button? It's like my parents.
Why did this turn off?
Because it feels like the smarter your TV gets, the more remotes you have. You got all right, this one's for the cable box, this one's for the TV, this one's for the Blu-ray player, this one's for the speaker.
The smarter the TV, the dumber the person.
Exactly.
What does this one do? That opened the garage door, Dad.
It's like, that's your phone.
Oh, did I make a call? No, that's the microwave.
But no, that just kind of reminds me of this one time where my grandma had gotten a new phone, and bless her heart, she wants to keep up with all the latest technology. This was like her first smartphone, which you probably didn't need.
Yeah.
But love her to death. And so anyway, we both happened to have the same phone. So I was trying to teach her how to use the camera so she could take pictures, because we were at my sister's dance recital. She was sitting right next to me. It's like, okay, so what do you do? Well, it's like, well, this one, you push this button to take a picture. What about this button? That button takes a video. You don't want to take a video if you just want to take a picture. Okay. So what's this button do? That's to take a picture. So what's this button do? That's to take a video, Grandma. You don't want to take...
We've been over this.
Oh, boy.
I remember when my grandma got her first computer, because I'm old and computers weren't a big thing when I was a kid.
She got her giant, took up the whole house, her old, IBM 5000.
Setting up email and stuff. But I don't even know where we're at. Oh, yeah, they both take crappy jobs at this point. And they're doing it just to make each other happy because they're just trying to make money, because there's this running theme where she doesn't know what I don't think either one of them really know what they want, and he kind of does because he wants to be a successful game designer.
He wants to be a game designer, but he doesn't really know how to get there.
Yeah, and he doesn't know how to make what makes other people happy. He thinks it's if he's successful, that'll make other people happy if he can buy things and all this stuff. So they both take crap jobs just to start making some money.
She starts selling stuff, and then he's working at like a call center.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's a scene where they're talking about the future, and this is an indicator of like, is this really going to work out? Because even though we already know it doesn't work out, he's asking, "Hey, I want to have a baby." She's like, "Well, what about in the future when we break up?" It was like, it wasn't even if. It was like when we break up.
Oh, ye of little faith.
And then he goes, and this was again where he is always pretending to be wealthy, and they go to dinner with friends the next New Year,
and they rent a car.
Yeah, and then he's pretending to be rich, and they get in a fight on the way home. But like while they're eating, he's like trying to like talk about all this stuff that he's doing, and she's like, "Yeah, he works at a Fortune 500 company,
500 is gonna go IPO soon, and he's got billions of stock options,
She says something about like there's 500 employees and they make like
billions
a year, and he goes, all the employees would be rich.
Yeah. Then he meets their friends who actually are kind of successful. One's like like doing like a government job, like secretary for some like governor province or whatever.
Yeah, well then he gets bitter about actually not being rich, and he's on a call at the call center with a customer, and he gets all mad at him because
customer starts yelling.
He's like, just because you're rich, you think none of us else matter, and blah 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 blah. And then the caller comes into the place.
It's like, yeah, can you point me to 1009, please? Which is like his call number. Is like, yes, you're the guy that called me a loser, and then just walks out.
And then we cut to him with like a black eye and a fat lip. And then he's getting drunk, and they're out having dinner, and he hears two other people bragging about how rich they are, so he just goes and starts beating them up,
punching them.
And then his girlfriend slaps him.
Yep.
And then they get kicked out of the apartment at the next New Year, and they don't go home that year
because they got to find a new place to stay.
And then he's all depressed in their new place, and
it's kind of not quite as good, smaller. Doesn't have real it's like the window is partially underground, so you can just kind of see stuff looking up. It's like mostly just concrete, maybe with like a couple pieces of grass growing out of the concrete, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and he starts going down a hole where it's like he just sits there playing video games all the time, and this is the part where she's actually trying in the relationship, and she's trying to make things work, and he's like, I'm not rich, I'm not going to make it, I'm not rich, I'm just going to sit and play video games and mope. Mm-hmm. And so she breaks up with him while he's playing video games and just walks out. And then like 30 seconds later, he looks over. He's like, "Huh, where'd she go? Oh crap, she left."
He starts running off for this big moment. They go down to the subway, and then there's a crowd of people on one side. He has on the other side. Then he has to yell and kind of whisper, and it goes the telephone down to one side. And then they all find out that they really want to stay with Crocodile Dundee. Or am I getting confused again?
I think so. And then we go back to the black and white.
And that's not a knife. This is a knife.
I see you've played Knifey Spoony before. They come back to the black and white, and they rent a car again, and then they have a laugh about that. Hey, remember when we rented a car? Now we're renting a car again. And the road is closed because travel sucks for them. Their plane is delayed, their train is stopped, their car gets blocked.
And then they're slowly passed by Steve Martin and John Candy are trying to go home to Chicago for Thanksgiving dinner.
Exactly. And what was it? John Candy turns into a skeleton?
Yeah. No, he turns into the devil.
Oh, that's right.
When they're going the wrong way.
They start talking.
Where's your other hand? Oh, it's between those two soft pillows.
It's not a pillow. They start talking about like the past again, because that's what they've been doing.
Yeah, reminiscing, because that's kind of really all they have in common at this point.
And she basically tells him, like, he's like, what could have changed? And she says, every scenario ends with us breaking up. And so, like, she had a very pessimistic outlook on their relationship, I think.
And she was kind of right.
But, and she's like, you can tell she's like really unhappy and alone right now. Mm-hmm. And she's trying to hide it with humor while talking to him. But she says that she always loved him, and you kind of believe that.
Yeah. I think they legitimately did have feelings for each other, at least at one point.
Yeah, I think they both did, and that's very clear in the movie, is that they both genuinely loved each other. They just didn't know how to show it and how to like show what they wanted from the other person.
Mm-hmm.
But they go back and after the breakup, he gets mad and destroys his apartment. He has one of those fits of rage where it just rips everything apart.
Yeah.
Like he hulks out and just throws the bed through the window. Not quite that intense.
Yeah.
And
it's a secret Amadeus Cho, totally awesome Hulk origin story.
Yes, just what I always wanted.
Coming soon to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I sure hope so.
That, or I think She-Hulk would be awesome too.
Have a nice courtroom drama with
I would
She-Hulk.
love
That'd be fantastic.
A superhero version of like A Few Good Men, with on one end of the aisle is Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, and then the other end of the aisle is Matt Murdock.
And then some private investigator would be just Jessica Jones, who we've already been introduced to.
It's perfect.
That'd be awesome. This is where the ironic part comes into their relationship. They're always hanging out car windows going, Beijing, we're going to get rich. We're going to make it and blah, blah, blah. And then finally she breaks up with him. And then that gives him the motivation to finish his game. And he makes his game. And he then at this point, he's working as a delivery person. And everywhere he delivers, people are playing his game. Every single place he goes, someone's playing his game. It's very popular.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's gone viral.
Yeah.
And then it looks like a company decides to buy the game from him.
He gets hired on as kind of a big shot developer. So.
Yeah, so I don't know what he just put the game out there.
I mean, if I had to guess, he probably put it in online distribution places like Steam or like iTunes or the App Store.
And the thing is what made his game finally what can finally finish his game is that he realizes in the game the boy doesn't get back together with the girl. And that's how he finishes. And then there's this whole online community for the game where people are leaving sorry notes.
Because the final line is if you see her, tell her I'm sorry. So then
and then there's
people
all
would
these
leave
forums.
these online sorry notes.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool.
It was sweet.
Yeah.
This film felt very sincere, and I appreciated it. I really appreciated its sincerity with its commitment to its characters.
It really is. It's very realistic in how I think it tried to portray a relationship in a very real way.
Mm-hmm.
And he even had a line in there that was something about, and I think it was in the trailer too. It was something about the story. She says something about this. Why can't the story just be all good things? Because he goes, then what was do you remember what the quote was?
Because if they're all happy, then there is no story. Misfortune is. It kind of reminds me of the old Leo Tolstoy line, which is, every happy family is happy in the same way. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way, which is the beginning of Anna Karenina.
Yeah, Anna Karenina. That's a messed up book.
Did you read it?
I did.
I did too. I was working in a warehouse at the time, and we were allowed to, have iPods and stuff. So I just got a bunch of audiobooks, and that's how I listened to Anna Karenina, was just at work.
And that's actually what I did listen to the audiobook. I didn't actually read the book.
And that's honestly a good way to do it, just because because it's this kind of work we can you can get away with not paying full attention to it.
Yeah, there are some older books that just I listened to Hunchback of Notre Dame.
It's such a depressing ending.
That is the most depressing ending ever.
Jason Alexander was nowhere to be found, and I was very disappointed.
But the thing is with that one, you could just tune out for a while because he just goes into describing the city in intricate detail, building by building, for 300 pages,
which is cool.
Which is great because you get a sense of what the architecture was back then. But I'm going, this doesn't do anything for the story.
It turns the setting into a character.
Yeah, but I think he tries too hard in it.
So it goes in the Moby Dick way, where now I know a ton about 19th century whaling practices.
I hated Moby Dick. It was so boring.
But at the same time, I love Moby Dick. It's one of my favorite books of all time.
Oh, see, because I thought it was less of a story and more of an instructional manual on how to go whaling.
With stories in between.
With kind of a story sprinkled in on 10 pages of the 500 pages or whatever it is.
See, I always kind of thought about how it was explained to me by a literature professor in college. He talked about how these whaling interludes were kind of part of the character Ishmael, almost sort of because he's a teacher by trade, so he's almost these sort of obsessive compulsive sort of a thing where he has to know everything he possibly can about a subject. So he's just really deep diving and he has to share all this knowledge he knows about whaling. Plus it kind of adds, I don't know, maybe a little bit of extra flavor. So I enjoyed the whaling interludes, but I'm probably in the minority on that one.
Yeah, and I don't know. It might be a classic for a reason.
Yeah, people still talk about it.
It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Yes.
But we digressed into
whaling.
Old literature.
19th century literature.
19th century literature. Welcome to Book Talk.
Kyla knows we don't know what to read.
And stop giving me these really long old books that just have lots of descriptions.
Hey, Moby Dick is about half a Tolstoy.
That's true.
And I read War and Peace and had a great time.
That's one I haven't read yet.
To think about it, I always thought about it as kind of it's closer to a soap opera, watching a soap opera with also historical interludes about, the Napoleonic Wars and what was going on in this kind of Tsarist Russia. So it's very interesting to see kind of what high culture was about in contrast, because around the same time I had read The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. And Dostoevsky is very much about life sucks in Russia. I'm a sad, grumpy college boy in Crime and Punishment. I'm going to murder someone and plan the perfect crime because that's the only thing I have in life. So it's kind of interesting to see a contrast of high culture, rich people versus the poorest of the poor.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting back-to-back read.
Yeah. I mean, I'd take a break because they're both long. Karamazov is about 700 some pages if I remember, and then War and Peace is over 1,000.
Sounds like audiobooks to me.
Oh yeah.
We're still digressing into 18th century literature.
Back to Tolstoy.
Or 19th century, whatever.
Books.
Old books.
We don't know what to book.
So he made his game. He gets rich. He buys a house, and then she sees an interview with him on TV, and he's talking about his relationship with her and how that influenced the game. And then we find out that one of the first times they met, they're going up a staircase because the elevator is broken because, always.
Yeah, it's just and
he's like,
it's just like the Big Bang Theory.
When are they going to fix the elevator?
Wasn't there one episode where Sheldon finally confessed that he just forgot to call the maintenance person after years? So.
But he says it'll go faster going up these stairs if we tell a story. And then you realize the story he's telling is the video game he made. So everything about that video game was because of their relationship. And so then he starts texting her and being like, yeah, I got a house now. And he finally, she agrees to go back to New Year's with him so that he doesn't have to tell his dad that they're actually broken up. So he's going to lie to his dad again because his dad actually likes her a lot. And he actually wants them to be together too.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that just kind of breaks your heart because it's they love each other. They keep screwing it up. The dad really likes her, and he's a sweet old man. And now he's finally going blind.
His eyes are starting to go. I was like, well, I guess I'm just old now. I was like, no, come on, Dad. You can move in with me. He's like, no, I don't want to move. I want to stay here.
And that's when you get the scene where he goes, I want you to move into my big house. I want Dad to move into my big house and get out of this crappy restaurant. And he's like, this crappy restaurant put food on your plate and allowed you to move to Beijing.
Yeah, this paid for your tuition.
So I think that's the beginning of where he finally realizes, oh, I've been thinking about things wrong. I've been trying to get away from this because I thought it was crap, but my dad's happy here. And this is what made him happy all these years. And he was doing this for me and, to make my life better. And here I am lying to him all the time. And he talks to her about it too and says, I bought this house and we wanted to be rich. We wanted a house, a big house. And then she straight up says, I didn't want a house. I wanted a home. And
I never cared about the big house, you dummy.
And the thing is that kind of bothered me about that was that you kind of had to read between the lines to get that though, because she was always dating people who had money and just using him as a friend. And then she was always talking about, we're going to be rich. We're going to make it, blah, blah, blah. That's all she talked about. And then it turns out, but then there was, when they were poor, there was a great scene where she finds a chair in the alleyway. It's just a crappy chair.
It's just very distinguished, kind of it's just all this in Lazy Boy type chair where it's all just patchwork to
And this was another thematic thing where she's like, I want this. He's like, there's no room in the apartment. And she goes, well, but I want, let's have, we need a couch, right? And they call it a couch. But
so then they get it.
And they do. And she's happy with it. And that's the thing is like, that's where he should have seen, wait, she just wants this because it's ours. And that was, and then you see that chair later, like when they get kicked out of the apartment, they leave the chair.
And then like years later, when he's looking at the balcony of this new house he's thinking about buying, then he sees the chair again.
Yeah. Somehow this stuff like still pops up, and like, there's a lot about like destiny and how things will pop up again and again and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then he goes back to his other job as a part-time photographer and to get pictures of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a menace. And I found an Amazon listing one time of like a J. Jonah Jameson action figure with desk pounding action. I was really thinking about buying it. It was like $50.
But that's
probably
way too
like
expensive,
a custom made
awesome
thing. But yeah, this is pretty great.
So this is nearing the end where we get to the 2015 New Year, and he comes back with a pregnant wife. So now he's married. His wife is, a new girl, and his wife is pregnant. And the blind dad says he thinks it's the same, the previous girlfriend, and he's happy about that. And then we're cut into the future again, and it's just kind of them going their separate ways again. But I think them talking has made her happier.
Yeah.
Realize, that he's got a good life and that's great. And they're both happy for each other. And like, she's like, I can go. And he's like, you're going to find that person or whatever that will pull the star from the sky and dive for pearls in the ocean or whatever he says.
And the moon will hit your eye like a big pizza pie.
And that's amore.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see the...
So then she moves to Connecticut and opens a place called Mystic Pizza.
And she meets Julia Roberts. And then we see they're still in black and white. And then finally she plays the video game. And at the very end of the video game, it says... There's a little caption that says, Ian will always love Kelly. And those are the two characters in the video game. And then and then she turns to color. Like right then. So like it's like her realizing, oh, he always loved me, but now I need to move on and be happy and figure out what makes me happy.
That reminds me of that Colin Firth movie from when I say like maybe 10, 15 years ago called like I don't remember what it was called, but he was a gay man and his lover had recently died. And after his lover died, everything turned black and white. So the idea of the movie was to help them sort of rediscover that, life maybe is worth living, and just occasionally you'd see flashes of color. It's like, this kind of reminds me of that.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
I think it was mentioned in like a film history class I took or something.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the end of the movie too. It was very sad, and like it felt like, gosh, that's like kind of crushing, but there's a letter that he wrote to his dad, but he didn't send it before he passed away.
Well, I thought it was no. There was a letter that the dad wrote to her.
Oh, there was that.
Was never sent it, and then at the end of the movie, he decides that he's going to write a letter to his dad to sort of apologize.
Oh, he writes to his dad after his dad is dead, but like it's just his cathartic way of getting like
kind of getting all those thoughts out and those
and out. He talks about, I should have told you I loved you more, but I didn't. I should have appreciated this, but I didn't. And just realizing all the mistakes he made while his dad was alive, and now he's finally figured that out after his dad has passed, and is very sad. And then like his world goes to color too when he goes back to his dad's restaurant and he realizes this was happiness right here, like,
Yes, and then it gets a bottle of red and a bottle of white. Whatever kind of mood you're in tonight, you can have anything you want at our Italian restaurant. Then he starts playing the saxophone
at our Chinese restaurant. But But I thought that was a very sweet moment of a very teary moment at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought it was kind of sweet that they actually put real people in the credits holding up signs that like said, and all of them were different. They weren't all just "I'm sorry" signs. Some were like "Don't ever come back" or "Don't you wish you had stayed with me. I've lost all this weight. Don't you?
Like all this kind of post breakup stuff, and
yeah. And then some of them were, "I'm sorry if you're reading this. I'm sorry." And I was like, I thought that was kind of cool that they put that in there.
And then the end of the movie is like, it's never too late to apologize. It's never too late to say these things you've always wanted to say to either someone you love, like maybe a parent, maybe an ex, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it was a good message in there.
Definitely a great message. Sort of reach out to your loved ones and tell them that you love them.
Yeah. So, what'd you think overall?
I thought it was good. I'm not sure I'd personally watch it again, but I definitely would recommend it.
I think I'm in the same boat. This just isn't like the kind of movie that I love romantic movies, especially romantic comedies, but like even these that are romantic dramas. I really dig a good one, but like I don't really go back and revisit them. But this is one. It's on Netflix, and it was very well done, and I thought it was very realistic the way they portrayed their struggle with their relationship and all this stuff, and it wasn't a happy ending, but it was kind of a realistic ending. This is how life happens, and I would definitely recommend this also. I think the only problem I really had was the beginning. Took a little while to figure out what they were going for, and it took it's a 2-hour movie, and the first half hour moved a little slow for me, but once they got into their relationship, then it started going, and I was really into it.
Yeah, I can understand. It did feel like it tended to drag a little bit in certain places.
Yeah, because she had to go through a few boyfriends first, and it was just like, okay.
Don't we all?
I get that, I get what you're trying to do here, but speed up that a little bit.
We all know that you were dating 3 people all named Rachel before you really got together with your wife.
I was a real player.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that I really liked about this movie was the cinematography.
It was nice to look at.
It was. I thought some of the black and white cinematography, especially, was gorgeous. And I may have to check out some other movies that cinematographer has done. See,
yeah.
The cinematographer was Ping Bin Lee. And
apologies.
Yep. Just overall apology for everything, every name I screw up.
We need to try better. Just as people, we're too lazy to try.
Well, but it's not even that. I listened to them say it in the movie over and over, and I like some of the names, and generally a lot of languages for me, just because I'm not used to them, and I'm sure it's for people who listen, foreigners who haven't learned English. We probably sound like we're talking fast. All other languages sound like they're talking really fast, and I can't denunciate what they are saying because it seems like just really just and I have no idea what you just said. Even if I'm watching subtitles and they're saying a name of a place, I'm going, that's not what you said, is it?
Yeah.
And it's
your ears just aren't quite attuned to it at the moment.
Yeah. So
maybe if you saw it kind of written down. Sort of like an isolated thing, like when you're looking at something on the Merriam-Webster dictionary.com or something, or even you push the button to hear.
And I will apologize for slaughtering some of the words, but it's not intentional, and it's also not I don't want to try, but it's very hard if you're 40 years old and you've never learned those other languages.
Well, whose fault is that, Kyle?
It's mine for not learning every language. I'm watching foreign movies at least, right?
Yeah. You know how to say Godzilla or Gojira. And Mothra.
But I try.
King Ghidorah. I
try. Anyway, that cinematographer has 77 other credits, and it might be worth looking at a couple of them just to see that. It'd be kind of like watching, Roger Deakins movies just because he did the cinematography.
Yeah, and he's gonna look pretty.
Even if the movie sucks, you're going to enjoy watching the movie just to look at it.
Yep.
And I think that would go for this cinematographer too. That's why I wanted to give a shout out to that name, even if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Look it up. And another impressive thing is this was directed by a woman named Renee Liu, and it looks like she was born in Taiwanese. She was born in Taiwan, so she's Taiwanese. Mm-hmm. But she was an actress in a lot of stuff, and this is her directorial debut, and the only thing she's directed. But it just came out in 2018, so maybe I would be interested to see what she comes out with next.
She definitely feels like she has a real sense of character. Yes. I felt the characters were strong, and that's probably her best point at this point, and I think that's really good.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see her do some more, maybe try some more either in this kind of same mode or maybe stretch your genre legs a little bit, kind of go from there.
Yeah, this was a very solid directorial debut.
Yeah, very good.
And the two actors, I don't even know if I want to try and pronounce their names, but you can look them up on IMDb. But they did an excellent job too.
The two leads did great.
The two leads, and actually the father too.
Yes.
So basically the three leads did really great.
Yeah.
This movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, but only 5 critics. But
5 English reviews, maybe.
I didn't even look to see who the critics were, even though it's only 5. But it has a 90% with users, and there was 99 users who submitted. So this is well received with a lot of people, and it sounds like it was well received in China too. It made $191 million in the first 2 weekends in China.
Do we have a budget estimate or?
That I didn't find, but it premiered in Beijing on April 23rd, made $191 million in the first 2 weekends in China, and then at the 2018 Cannes Film Festival, Netflix bought the exclusive distribution rights for every area outside of China. So, and I think that they said that the director was happy with that because they're like, we're getting distribution out there. We're getting the movie everywhere else by Netflix buying it. They can put it on Netflix UK, Netflix Canada, Netflix, it's just Netflix America.
Netflix US.
America. But so I mean, that's great that they're buying up movies like that. They see a great foreign movie and they throw it on there. It's
I think that's good. They're trying to improve their, I guess, quote unquote awards cred.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. I mean, Netflix has a lot of problems, but buying good foreign films and providing access to them everywhere is one of the good things that I do like about Netflix.
Yeah,
and I have plenty of issues with Netflix.
Oh, there's plenty, but like you said, there's so many people. Most people have a Netflix account by now. Like it's very common to have a Netflix account, and if this is just on there available for you, like some people might be inclined to check it out.
I had never heard of this film. Would I recommend it to my parents? Probably.
Yeah, I would too.
I recommend it to my friends. Hey, you're in the mood for something a little more moody or romance? Yeah, it's not bad.
I can't recommend it to my dad because he's one of those that hates reading films.
I don't want to read a movie.
But then I lost my train of thought there. Oh, this was also based on a short story called Home for Chinese New Year.
Cool.
And that's about it for this movie. That's about all I found on this one. So, but the fact that it's there is great, and it was a really good movie and a solid movie. So that's a recommend.
So what would you pick for your double feature with this one? Say your watch alike, I guess.
I had trouble with this because this isn't the type of movie I'm usually drawn to. So like I don't have a lot of movie comparisons to it that would be a similar theme or anything. But what I thought I'd recommend, and a lot of people know this movie is great already, but it's been a while and people don't talk about it a lot anymore, is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And here's my reasoning for that, is because they did talk about destiny a lot in this movie and how they're always ending up together. And that's basically like Eternal Sunshine, because it opens... Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, you have not seen it?
I have not seen it. It's one of those movies I missed.
Okay, well then I'm glad that I am recommending this because
it came out in 2004. I was 10 because you are an old man.
I was much older than 10 in 2004. But so anyway, it opens up with them on a train. It's Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, and they're on a train, and she's all quirky, and they're kind of like complete opposites, but they are attracted to each other. Well, then you come to find out that they've actually met before and they used to date, but then they got into a big fight and she had her memories of him erased. And so it all comes around to they both ended up getting their memories erased, and he starts fighting it because he realizes, oh wait, I want those memories of her. Even if we had the fight and we broke up and all that, you need that.
And the whole better to have loved and lost than have never loved at all.
Yeah, kind of. So then when they meet again, they actually had conflict within the I don't want to say too much if you haven't seen it, but there's something that happens and then they decide that they want to kind of try again, even though they've done this before. So it's kind of like this, where it's like they appreciate the memories that they had of their relationship and where it led to them to in their lives. So even if it doesn't work out, that formed who they are in the future. So, but yeah, I highly recommend Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I believe that that's streaming on Netflix right now also.
Good. I should probably finally check that one out. Add it to my watch list, which is the other 1,000 things that are on there.
And I may have gotten some of that wrong. For anybody listening who absolutely loves that movie, my memory's a little fuzzy on it. I know it's a fantastic...
Because you got most of it erased?
I got most of it erased just because I'm old and I forget things, and I haven't seen it in quite some time. But I remember the gist of it, and it really is dealing with kind of that also the destiny thing, where it's like you're kind of destined to be together, even if it doesn't work in the long run. So, what is your recommendation?
Okay, well, I've got like 3 that all just came into my head.
All right.
So, recommendation number 1 is 500 Days of Summer.
I was going to recommend that just because of the premise, but I've never seen it.
It's really good. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel. They have great chemistry. Plays a lot in the same thing of just sort of like jumping around in time. Starts out of like, and then everything is labeled as like day such. Like day 1 versus like day 300 something. And then it's kind of... So it jumps around in time a lot, similar to that. And also it's very playful in its cinematography. Like at one point there's this big dance sequence where he talks to a cartoon bird and all this sort of fun stuff. So it's very much plays more into the comedy than this is sort of the straight romance. But it's very much about like how it didn't work as much as how it did work for a time.
Yeah.
Because we kind of cut to a scene of them having like a cute scene. And then like, it shows them getting into the elevator, is really happy. And then it like... cuts to him, same shot, getting out of the elevator. He's really sad. It's after the breakup.
Okay.
So that's really good. It kind of plays a little bit into the, tries to play against the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. I'm not sure if it works or not, but it's a really good movie. Recommendation number 2 is a South Korean film. It's a period piece, very much closer to this movie as more straightforward storytelling, called In the Mood for Love.
I've heard of this one.
It's really good. It's also extremely well shot. Absolutely beautiful period piece about these 2 people who kind of get stuck together for a while. Kind of this happenstance meeting where like they're not supposed to be in the same room, but then the people in the next room are playing like mahjong, which can go on forever. So they end up playing like mahjong all night. So they're just kind of stuck in this room together all night. And that's very playful, beautifully well shot, and very well edited. I really like In the Mood for Love. And then my third one is a more recent animated film, just believe it came out like 2017, called Your Name.
I did see that one. That's good.
That's a fun one. That has kind of a bit almost more of a couple of sci-fi twists here and there that I don't want to spoil, because a couple of times we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But the basic premise is that a boy and a girl, they're both kind of young, trying to get their lives together. They like wake up and they realize like they've been like body switching. So like they wake up, then they're stuck in each other's bodies for like a few days, and it just keeps going back and forth. And the only way they can really communicate is through like either notes they write to themselves, they write on themselves, or then it's just like goes like texts they send to themselves.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's a great movie. Has a couple of great twists in it, and it was like the highest grossing animated movie in Japan for a while, which probably for good reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my 3 recommendations. So you can have a quadruple feature for me, or a quintuple feature if you want to add in Kyle's movie.
And I think you should watch all of those. Actually, In the Mood for Love and 500 Days of Summer are 2 that are ones that I've wanted to see. They're on my watch list. So
you'll get to them eventually if you stop adding stuff to it.
If I stop adding stuff to the list and stop adding all the garbage I watch.
Should I watch this movie, which I've never seen? It's supposed to be really good, or should I watch Pieces again?
Pieces. People, 1982, Pieces. Stop. Watch it. It's awesome.
Nope.
Fine, watch Spider Baby. I'm going to get someone to watch Spider Baby.
Probably not going to be me.
All right, so I think we should go to the wheel.
The Wheel of Fish.
The Wheel of Fish.
This episode is sponsored by Spatula City. Go to spatulacity.com. Promo code WATCH. For 10% off your first order. Spatula City. For all your spatula needs.
What? That movie's so great. There's some parts that are a little like insensitive, but
oh yeah, UHF is very episodic, very much supposed to, it's closer like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's very sketch based more than overall plot based.
One of my favorite jokes is one that I shouldn't even laugh at because it's very just not PC. But I won't even say it.
Okay.
But go watch the movie though. It is funny, even despite its flaws.
I like the whole the Rambo sequence.
That's my mop. They stole my mop. What genre do you think we should go for?
I don't know.
Action, adventure, mystery, crime, travel, game show, fantasy, family, science fiction, animation.
Animated is good. We haven't done an animated movie in a while.
We haven't. Have we done one since April in the Extraordinary World?
We did do the Batman Bad Blood.
That's true.
That was the last one we did. So yeah, let's do an animated movie.
All right. Spin it to win it. Oh, we got Ghost in the Shell 2.0.
What's the difference between that and 1.0?
That's a good question because Ghost in the Shell is one I still haven't seen, so I wonder if I should watch that first. If I can find a copy of it.
We'll do some research of it. Ghost in the Shell is pretty easy to find.
Yeah, this is on one that everybody can watch as long as you have an internet connection. It's on Tubi TV and Vudu.
All right.
We've got, this is an animated film from 2008.
Okay, so I think this is the one where they just it was basically almost like a shot-for-shot remake with fancier animation or graphics.
Oh, that could be.
Because the first one came out in the 90s.
It has and
the bad one came out in 2016 with Scarlett Johansson.
100% on Rotten Tomatoes. In the year 2029, Section 9, a group of cybernetically enhanced cops, are called in to investigate and stop a highly wanted hacker known as the Puppet Master. I saw those movies. Because why wouldn't I?
What was the one with they could shoot fire and then had bullets for hands?
I don't know. I just like the one that spits leeches out of her mouth.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy.
Ghost in the Shell 2.0 is a reproduced version of its original 1995 counterpart.
Okay.
Among numerous enhancements for the film's 2.0 release were a number of scenes. This is really poorly written. Were overhauled with 3D animation, visual improvements, and soundtrack re-recorded in 6.1 surround sound. So yeah, Ghost in the Shell 2.0.
So before we end here, how do you feel about kind of anime in general? And do you have a favorite?
I did watch some anime when I was in college, and one of my favorites
did it involve a Dragon Ball and the letter Z?
I did watch that when I would do homework late at night. I would watch that on Cartoon. I think it was on Cartoon Network. Toonami.
Yeah,
yes,
on Cartoon Network.
When I'd be doing homework at 2 in the morning, and
yeah.
I'd watch. I actually liked Dragon Ball Z. It was fun, but that was cheesy fun though.
Yeah. I mean, how many?
I do have.
How many Saiyans does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know.
Just one, but it'll take him 3 episodes.
But I do have a lot of anime. But one of my favorites is also a very common to be a lot of people's favorite is Cowboy Bebop.
It was either that or Neon Genesis Evangelion.
And I haven't seen that one.
That one is actually coming to Netflix in June, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I do still enjoy watching some good anime. So
you don't want to watch over the 1,000 episodes of Naruto or something?
No, probably not. Another one that's a little lighter that I actually had fun watching while it was on was Inuyasha.
Okay, so I've got a story to tell, but I might have to save that for the next episode, so we'll just leave that as a tease.
Okay.
I have stories to tell about the animes.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, I guess we'll be watching an anime movie. Again, find it on Tubi TV and Vudu.
And this is Ghost
Voodoo.
This is Ghost in the Shell 2.0. I think I've seen the original, the 90s version, I think twice.
See, and I haven't seen it, so you've already basically seen this movie. You'll just see a cleaned up version. A cleaned up version.
I don't know. a shinier version, a remake, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, a shot-for-shot remake, basically.
This one with Vince Vaughn playing the main character instead of
and I must say,
instead of Anthony Perkins.
This is not the crappy Scarlett Johansson live-action movie.
Yes, thank goodness.
Because that would not have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Certainly would not.
I certainly hope not.
A movie with literal whitewashing. How is that supposed to make it better? It doesn't.
I have no idea what you were thinking. But I'm actually, because I've only seen that version, so I'm actually kind of excited.
Why did you watch that version?
I don't know. Because
it was on?
Because it was on. It is, I don't know. But I've seen that, and now I'll be excited to watch the original, I'm sure, much better version.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, that's our show for this week.
Best part about hacking in any movie is when you hear someone like tapping on the keyboard going, we're in. We're in.
It's loading.
I turned the computer on.
Yay. So, until next time, don't just imply. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Yes. And the best movie about hacking is the movie Hackers with Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina Jolie.